Welcome to this week's episode of Black Plague Precision, where we're going to be talking about MK Machining and some of the amazing products that they're putting out. Stay tuned as I do an install video on two of these amazing products. Let's jump into it. All right, guys. Now, before we get into this, I do want to say that I did partner with MK Machinings. They gave me a discount on this product. And I am going to be doing a honest and open review about how I feel about their products. I have no obligations on that front, but I do want to be transparent that they did help me out with the purchase of this product. And thankfully, it's actually something I really needed. So it sort of worked out all in all. But let's go ahead and let's jump in. All right, so as we get into this, I'm going to be talking about 2 of 3 products in this first video. This is going to be a 2-part install video. So make sure that you're subscribed, you're liking, and you have the notification button tapped. Now, I am going to be talking about the extreme low profile bubble level that's used for making sure that your scope and your rifle are level, as well as the turret magnifier. So those are going to be the 2 items. And this kit here is not from MK Machining. It is from Short Action Customs. It is a plumb level system to make sure that your scope is directly up and down. So I do use this when installing my bubble levels. So I wanted to make sure that I showed you this. And these are the items that we have here. Now, on the top left, that is the callless bubble. And I'll show you a little more closely what this looks like. And then you can see here, the next to it on the right, that is the extreme low profile MK Machining bubble level. Now, just basically looking at this, like just first thoughts, I thought, okay, the callless level has 2 big lines on the far right and the far left, and that's all I really have, right? So on this one, on the MK Machining one, I liked that there was a line right down the middle, and then I liked how there was 2 smaller lines on the actual green bubble area that were closer together, and then the bubble itself is smaller. I noticed that right off the bat. I mean, you can see the window is much smaller as well. I sort of wish the window was a little wider, but I guess it is the extreme low profile, so it can't be too big. But that bubble is maybe like 1/8 of the size of that other bubble. I mean, I didn't measure, but it's way, way, way smaller, which should make it more accurate. And I won't know that until I go out to the range, but that's what we're gonna put on. Now, I probably should have left the callless bubble on, but I know exactly where it's supposed to sit, and that's why we do the plumb. So it's fine. And then on the right here, we have the magnifiers. I bought 2 because I need the magnifier for the top turret and the turret that I run on the left. I run my turret on my windage on the left, and then I have my elevation on top. So let's take a look. Now you can see here, like sort of when this zooms in, that bubble on this is way bigger, right? And so I run left edge. That's the only way I could do it. Like I couldn't really like keep it in the middle because it's really sort of hard to gauge that while I'm shooting. So I always ran it left edge, and that was center for me. And it seemed to work pretty well, but it's a relatively large level. And sometimes I would sort of like go a little more middle, and sometimes it might go right edge. And I wasn't always a huge fan of that, but I will say like the make of this thing is like pretty nice. I think they're very similar, made of aluminum or at least some sort of metal. It's not plastic. So the construction of it is nice. It's just such a huge bubble, right? You can see here on this one, much smaller bubble, a lot sleeker looking, very nice material that's on there. And I do run the 34mm tube that's on my callless 5-25. And then here you can see the magnifiers, and you're gonna see in a second. So this is the Pro Series turret magnifiers, again on the 34mm, because that's what my tube is. It's really important that if you're gonna buy stuff like this, know what your tube is. I know I had a problem with this when I first started because I was just like, oh, well, I want this sort of magnification, and that's what I focused on. But in reality, when you start putting stuff on there, you need to know that. And luckily, I just went back to my purchases and they'll tell you what the tube size are. 34 is pretty common, one that you'll see in there. But take a look at just right now, like this magnification. So just looking at that, like that's pretty significant. And we're going to get a better look at what that looks like on the turrets. But I like this a lot just from the initial jump. Now, I run Fix It Sticks, okay? Fix It Sticks. That's the kit I run on all my installs. That's what I have in my case when I go to the range. If I have a problem, I need to be able to fix it with Fix It Sticks. And I should be able to, considering I bought the long range precision kit, that's $400 and something. It's really important to me. And these two levels came in there. You can see I have the Collis level, I have the MK machining level, and then I have another level from the Plum kit. Now, you guys are gonna get a good look here at my living room. I like to do this in my living room. I live in suburban California, and I essentially have what most people who aren't in the shooting world would consider a sniper rifle. And probably not a good look to like have this out in the open. So I could do it like, you know, where my shop is, but that sort of opens up if I wanted more light, which I would, to the outside. And I don't really want that. I don't have really anywhere without setting stuff up in my backyard. I couldn't really do that. So it works best in my living room. I can do it off my counter. I could run this off the fan. Now, if you're not so familiar with this system, it's old school, right? Essentially, you have a string and then you have a weight at the end of that string, and gravity pulls items straight down. So long is that this string is pulling straight down, there's no wind, which is another reason I like to do it inside, because there's no wind moving it. Then you can line up your scope directly up and down with this, and that'll pretty much get you where you need to be on your scope. It's pretty accurate. I've ran it for a long time. It works great. And like I said, Short Action Customs make this. They also make a leveling kit for your scope, which I already have. I have that as well, but this scope wasn't removed, so I don't really need to do anything like that. And plus, that's really for when you put your scope into rings. And as of right now, I just take my rings off. I don't take the scope out of the rings, right? So it works perfect. Now, you might have a little trouble seeing this. I do not own any sort of camera that goes on the lens. If somebody wants to sponsor me and help me out with these videos, but I don't have that, so I'm doing the best I can here. But you can see I have the Christmas tree, so the red Christmas trees there, and it'll zoom in better. And then I have, you know, our line that goes up and our line that goes across, and the goal is to get that black line that's straight up and down right over to that white and red rope, and make sure it's straight up and down. And that's what you're going to end up seeing happening here. Okay, you can start to see those you know, those crosshairs lining up a little bit better. And I'm going to start moving it over, and you can start to see I'm shifting, and you know, you can't see it super great, but I'm lined up right there. And that's how I know, okay, my scope hasn't shifted at all. I'm perfectly up and down. So long as when I put my levels on, right? Because I used to run the Eric Cortina tuner brake when I was more interested in PRS, and you can't have the brakes on the line for F-Class. So now I run the EC Tuner V2, but it doesn't balance as well on there. So you can see I'm balancing it on the barrel. I'm level there. I used to run one on the front barrel, one on the scope, one on the rear. But since I have that Plum, I don't run one on the scope because I know the scope is straight up and down. So I can see here the front is good, and I know this back end runs a little to the left. So for me, that's fine. And so I knew, okay, I'm looking pretty good. Now, again, here's my Fix It Sticks kit, and I have my Wolf Precision patch because that's who I built my system through. I run their unique proprietary item there is called the Accurizing Chamber Extension, and that is called the ACE system. I would recommend you guys check them out. Wolf Precision, they've done great for me. I think they're still highly undervalued, and I think a lot of people are going to get some great use out of them. But you can see here I have all the tools, little kits I need, and then emergency cleaner on the back end there. So this is a great piece of kit, and I make sure that I have it with me. And it was something I didn't really know I needed to buy, and then $400 later, there it is. So just laying everything out so you guys can sort of see, these are the items I'm going to be working with. Here's the tool I'm going to be working with. I'm lining everything up for myself as well. And I know this may seem like, oh, whatever, but it's really important that when you're going to be doing installs and you're going to be taking stuff off, have a clean work area, have everything laid out, and just have a clear picture of what you're going to be doing, because you're going to be working with like typically a lot of really small little bolts and nuts and washers. And I've done this like in areas that had desks and stuff like that, and stuff have fallen and rolling under, and it's just it's a nightmare. So I try to do this in a really clear area that if something falls, I can see it, right? Maybe don't do this on like dark carpet or something, because typically stuff is black. I want to point this out. I was sort of hoping they were going to have the same head size when it came to dealing with them. They weren't. I want to say the Collis was a little bit bigger, and that's fine. Luckily, that's the advantage of having the toolkit. It almost feels like a review for Fix-It sticks, but it's not. I just want to show you guys that sometimes this might happen. They're not universal. They don't always build on the same thing, but they are the same size. And from here you can see, where they sit. The Collis sits a little bit lower, which has actually been somewhat of a problem for me, and I'll show you guys later. And then you have on the left, you have the little higher setting for the MK machining one. So, all right. So I like to show people when I'm actually taking stuff apart, when I'm putting stuff together. And this is a good, you can see how big that bubble is right there as I'm doing this. But I like to take everything apart. I like to assess what pieces are there. So I'm not guessing if something falls, like, oh, did I lose something? Was there supposed to be something else there? Plus, I like to see how things go together. These are both nice little pieces. And then here you can sort of see the bubble on here. It's much, much smaller, a lot more precise. So I'm really excited to get out to the range and test this bubble out and see if it helps me at all. So yeah, but the build on these so far is the way they're put together is very similar. This has a little latching system, which is really cool. And you can sort of see here. So what I'm doing is like I said, I took this Collis one off. I'm putting it back on because I know that I'm going to be checking two things throughout this video, and you can't see me, but I'm checking inside the scope to make sure that the plumb and the reticles are still lined straight up and down. And then I'm going to be checking that this bubble is setting somewhat close to the far left, the Collis one, because that's for me was level. That's how I measured it. And so I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to check this bubble here, and I'm not going to do a final wrench down of it. Right now, I'm just sort of I've never had this on here, so, it's the extreme low profile. I'm trying to figure out where it is. Now, you can see the Collis sits much lower, and that was actually sort of an issue for me because it was sort of in my line of sight a little bit on the actual windage, which I wasn't a huge fan of. So I'm just sort of getting that back end lined up to where I know I really want it to be. It's center, but it's a little more left. And then I'm going to get this other one sort of adjusted. And once I have that adjusted, then I feel pretty comfortable with taking it off. But I just want to have both of them on there. And also, I was a bit worried that all three of the items that I have were not going to fit, because I have two magnifiers. And then I have one of these extreme low profile bubble level systems. So wasn't super sure, but luckily as I'm going through this, I'm starting to find out. And I did run into a few issues. I'm going to go over that. But for now, I'm just sort of testing this out. And I like to feel what's the tension and things like that. Because I do get a little bit worried now. Most of the time, these companies will put down how much you should tension it down. And I want to say on the on that item right there for MK machining, it was 10. So that's what I put it down to using the Fix-It Sticks torquing system. But yeah, I'm just literally like taking a look at these, and then I go, okay, yeah, those look pretty good. This is level. This is level. Now I can take this one off. I'm going to retire her. She's been a good girl. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. If somebody wants it, maybe I'll give it away, send it out, or I don't know. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with it because I really don't have a need for it. Maybe I'll keep it for a second build. But I would imagine I'm not going to want to go backwards if I really do like this level system. So I'm going to pause right here so you guys can see this. I like the window on the top, but it gives you a good like sort of vantage point of like what these magnifiers look like. So you can get a good look here, and I am going to show these a lot better on the actual turrets because that's what matters. But we focus a lot on the install for the magnifiers. The bubble, I'm more concerned about testing it on range day, because the levels is going to be, or not the levels, the magnifier is going to be like, oh, okay, yeah, I can see out of it, or I can't see out of it, or whatever. But the level, I actually need to measure accuracy. So you're going to see a lot more now moving into the magnifiers, and I'm going to get those installed. And again, you can see sort of what that looks like. That's not great right there because it's so far away, but you can see there it looks pretty good. I will preface this with saying I did touch the lens of those and not clean it in some parts of this. And so you can see like even right there, sort of like in getting there. And it is a plastic or hard plastic. I'm not sure exactly the material that it's made out of, but I was really worried about stretching it open, that I was going to break it. So I was really gentle with it. But then I had to get it off and get it on a bunch of times. And it's really easy. They slide on very easily, but it does sort of feel like, oh, I might break these things. But clearly they know what they're doing, right? So we got two here. And again, you can see how good that looks. I was very impressed when I was installing these, and you're gonna see that, and rightfully so. I need these, I really do, and so for me, it was already one of those things where I was excited to get them because I know I need them. So you can see here, pay attention to that back magnifier. I'm having problems on that and I don't know why, because I wasn't really paying attention. The rail system on the bottom that's on my action is hitting that. And if it's not in the right position, then I'm going to keep hitting it and keep hitting it. And so you're going to see me start to make adjustments here. That's normal. Plus I need all three of them to fit. So I'm thinking at this point, like, okay, I can move. I need more space. So I can move my level a little bit closer to me. There you go. You can see I slide it back. And that's great. Plus I can see that a little bit better because there's no magnifier in front of that, and I still do have sort of eye problems. That was a concern of mine, whether I was going to be able to see that much smaller bubble or not. But I was able to see it. Now I will say that when it's a little bit darker, it was a little bit harder for me, but on bright days and outside, like I saw it very well. And then I was sort of testing this out, because it was bright outside, but it was sort of darker where I was. So I think that's going to bode really well for when I go out to the range. Again, you can see I'm trying this out again. I'm like, it's still not working. Like, what's going on? I'm trying to push it. I'm like, I thought it was maybe just like an issue with the actual scope, but it's not. So you sort of have to maneuver it. And then you can see I pushed this one up, so then that bottom piece wasn't hitting, so it slides in from the side. I learned the puzzle piece. It took me a minute, but I learned it. So that puzzle piece is in. Now I can put this one in, and this is really nice because my windage is on the left hand side, but if your wind's on the right hand side, you can switch to the other side, right? So it's very nice on that front, and you can already see, like, just looking at these, it looks cool. It looks really cool, at least to me. Now maybe it's cool to like have 20/20 vision and not need these at all, but for me, I was like, oh, this looks really nice. These look really sleek. So I'm gonna show you right here. Now I'm just behind my scope. So this is pretty close to, like, if you had 20/20 vision, this is how it would improve for you. And you can already see there, like that looks pretty freaking good. So I'm gonna move it down. You can see how small that is. Now I can see the zeros, I can see the ones, I can see the 9, like, but the littler dashes are a little more tough. And so you can see how much improvement it is and how wide the window is. I can see really, really far. I mean, I can see like 2 mils, whole mils through this entire thing, which is pretty impressive. So I was very impressed with that, and you'll get to see this as well on the windage side. And again, for both. Now, I will explain to you guys right now that I had cataract surgery on both eyes. So last year I didn't shoot as much because I was having trouble seeing through my scope, and I had both eyes done. I have 20/20 vision now. I can see through my scope perfectly, but when I look at things that are close to me, it's a little blurry. It's still pretty good, but it's a little blurry. It's supposed to get better over the next 6 months, but I'm competing very soon. And so I saw these come up. They, MK Machining were putting these out, and I thought, oh man, like this would make a huge difference. Now I do have a weight limit when it comes to F class. So this would really have to be an improvement for me to be able to keep these on here and sacrifice that weight somewhere else. But just at this initial, install here, it's looking pretty good, and it's looking very promising on what it's going to be able to provide. And you can see here on my windage, like equally just as good. It's really, really good. So I'm getting excited about this already. The way that this looks and the way it's sitting, where it's sitting. And I will note right here that I was a little worried that this, the extreme low profile bubble system was too high. Like it was higher than the Collis one, but it's actually a big benefit for me because it doesn't, you see, if it was lower where that Collis one, it'd be sitting in my line of sight. And that's sort of what I was explaining earlier, that's exactly where it was in my line of sight. And so this one, it is low profile. It is extremely nice. It's nice and robust, but it's also not in my way. And that's one less thing I have to worry about, which for me is great. All right, so I'm gonna do a couple stills here so you guys can see what these look like. This is what your eyes would likely look like. Now I zoomed in a little bit so you guys can see this, but this is pretty close. If you had 20/20 vision and you could see up close, this is what it would look like. This is the clarity for you. I wanted to show you guys what this looked like for me. This again is what it would look like for the windage. Now, this is what it looks like for me. It's sometimes hard to understand why somebody would need something like this. And if you have any sort of visual impairment, whether it's some sort of ocular disease, or you simply just, have bad eyes, or you've gotten older and your eyesight is deteriorated, they don't make these little notches on the windage and elevation very big, rightfully so. And so you can see, I can see the 0 pretty good, and I can see the 1, and I see that line in the middle, and I've gotten very good at listening and feeling, right? The feel and auditory is pretty good. Like I can hear the click, I can feel the click, but sometimes I don't quite catch it, especially if it's very loud on the line. There's a lot of wind, things like that. And I really, really have to pay attention. I'm losing sight on competing and more on like, okay, am I in the right position? So you can see that does not look great. And again, this is what it would look like for my windage. Doesn't look great at all. And this is sort of what my vision looks a little bit like for the actual bubble level. But the bubble level is closer to me, so it's slightly better, which is great. Now, this is what it looks like with the magnifier on there, and this is what it looks like for me. So you would, from going from that blurry version to this, it was a huge improvement. I mean, I'm seeing it with this level of clarity, and you can see how crisp, and honestly, I was really impressed with this, how crisp it looks. Now, again, I did sort of touch it with my hand, so it could be a little bit better, but I mean, look how easy it is to see those dashes going across. Like, it's impressive. And again, you can see here the dashes on the windage are, I mean, it's outstanding. It's great. I can see everything very clearly. So at this point, I'm starting to get very excited. And I'm starting to think like, okay, I feel like I'm going to actually be able to eliminate another issue when it comes to competing. Now, understand, this is great for anybody. Even if you have 20/20 vision, I think that this is an improvement because they do make these dashes pretty small and it doesn't hurt to like see these. But particularly for somebody that has eye issues, this is really, really great. And it's pretty affordable. They're $40 each for these magnifiers. And I saw somebody post the other day for another magnifier. It was $140. And I just can't imagine $100 better quality than this. I mean, this was outstanding. It's really good. I see clear. And I love the design. I love how wide it is. So for me, this is already like pretty close to a winner. So you can see that here I'm using the fix-it sticks and I'm getting it down, cranked down to 10. So you'll see that sort of little movement there. But I was like, okay, I feel good. Everybody's in the right place. I'm gonna crank this bad boy down and get this squared away and we'll be good to go. Again, I did make sure to look in the plumb. I did make sure that the bubble was completely centered. And just from what I saw, it looked really good. And a lot more precise than what I was running before. So I'm very excited to get that out to the range and test that out. Now, this is a bit embarrassing. It takes a little bit of practice, but you can see here, because of where these were positioned, I sort of had to, and I'm talking about the magnifiers, I sort of had to like play around with them a little bit on how to get them installed. Now, you can see on the one that's closest, the furthest one back, the one closest to the turrets, there's a little hole there. That is for a washer. Now, I took this off. I dropped the bolt. I dropped the nut. I dropped the washer. And I wasn't quite sure where it went. And then eventually I found the hole and I was like, okay, and I got everything back in. But you want to be careful with when you're dealing with these little things. And luckily I'm on this flat surface that's very bright and those items are black. But I was having a little bit of trouble getting these in. Now I will say this is not a manufacturing issue. It's not like I didn't have enough clearance to do this. This was purely just based off of myself, and it'll be based off of you, of how much room you have, where you're setting your rifle inside of your rings. You may not be able to do everything that I'm doing, but I'm sort of getting this in. Now, I didn't see a spec for tightening these down, and that always worries me a little bit. And it might be there, but I didn't like look super hard. But I don't want to mess up my actual scope. So what I did was on the bottom, I put my finger on the bottom and I tightened it down, and I wanted to fill it on my finger. And then I was looking at how tight the edges were when they were coming together and if there was any sort of gap on that. So you'll see me here doing this install, and I'm sort of moving things around and trying to get a feel for it. And I would recommend when you're doing installs like this, or this install in particular, you might have to do that, right? The good thing with the magnifier that looks at the actual elevation up top, you can put that little where it screws down to the left or the right. Doesn't matter really, because you're doing this, but you do sort of have to pick a side. At least I did. First you put it on in the middle, and then you slide it over up because of that rail that's on the bottom. So yeah, just fidgeting around. And the other thing I'm doing is I'm staying behind the scope. I have my head on there. I'm looking through, making sure I'm still level at the plumb, making sure that my level is, my extreme low profile level is still looking good. And then I'm looking up, I'm looking through the magnifiers. Now, again, this is where I was having a little bit of trouble, because as you can see, it's a little darker in my living room, and it's one of those days where like the clouds go by and it gets darker and then they go away and it gets bright. So I was trying to like make sure everything was working. There's actually a lot more film to this, but I figure you guys sort of got it. You can see like I'm testing my finger placement, I'm testing my hand placement. I have my cheek down. You can't see that, but I'm looking through the scope, and I'm just making sure like, okay, are all of these in the exact position that I want when I'm competing? I will say this, I shoot prone, so I shoot F-class, and I probably should have tested this on the ground, but I knew I was going to the range within the next week, and I'm taking my Fix-It stick kit with me. So if there's any very small minor adjustments I need to make, I can make it while I'm at the range. That's the whole point of that kit, is to be able to do anything that I need to do at home there. And I don't like to bring in other tools because I'm not going to take those tools with me to the range. So this works really well for me. And I'm just getting everything lined up. I'm getting everything tested out. So this is a good time for you guys to really focus in on that, making sure everything's there. And you can see I'm installing there from the bottom, and then I'm sort of gonna fill for it. You can see my finger there. I'm filling for that bolt to come through, and then I'm looking at the right-hand side to see how everything's go. And I did switch the sides on this. That's why I'm screwing from that side, because it felt a little bit easier for me to screw from the right-handed side. So I did make that adjustment for myself, which worked out pretty nice for my install anyway. All right, so you guys are gonna see here what these look like for my point of view. Just here again, I really like the way these look. I think they look very sleek. They go with I have an all black rifle, but they look really nice. They're robust. So I was just really excited. Anytime you get new gear, it feels like Christmas. So you can sort of see like what these look like, how they install, how they all fit. This is what it looks like behind the scope, and you can see how good that looks, right? That's just, it's outstanding what these things can do, what sort of improvements that they can make for your line of sight. So I'm very excited about them, to take them out, to shoot them, to see how they're gonna help me. And you can see the bubble as well. I'm focusing on the magnifier, but you can see the bubble is in a good spot as well. And I'm gonna move the turrets here, but it has a hard time. It's focusing in on my hand, it's focusing on there. So, give me a little break, guys, it's all right. But you can see it looks really good. So I can hear it, I can feel it, and now I can see it, which I'm bringing all three in, which is great. And you can see the field of range is really good here, right? It's very wide. I can see a lot. I can't express how important this is and how difficult of a time that I was having, because it's not just about being able to see better. I'm trying to compete at the highest level, and any little thing that distracts me from focusing on my fundamentals is a problem for me. So it's really important. But why don't we jump over and let's get our final thoughts on this install. All right, guys, final thoughts on the install. It was easy, it was fun, and everything looks beautiful. Now, I don't think that you guys heard this enough, but I'm impressed, okay? I'm impressed with this product. Off the line, it looks good, okay? Everything fits well. I was really excited I could fit all three. The install was easy. Everything looks nice. I'm particularly excited about the bubble because of how small it is. And I think that's going to help me with a little bit more accuracy and consistency in my shooting. But again, as I mentioned, being able to see those turrets is one less thing I have to worry about when I'm actually shooting. And now I can focus a little bit more. And that's what I've been working on for a very long time, is systems that make my life easier, that I can focus on becoming a better shooter. Okay, every little item that I can eliminate, this is the opportunity to focus on my fundamentals of shooting. Focus on wind, focus on getting those downrange. So to start, I'm very excited about these. I'm excited to get them out to the range. Again, this is the first part of my install. I'm gonna be doing a second part on an MK machining product that I'm also excited to test out. So make sure you're subscribed, make sure you're liking, make sure you have the notifications on so you can get that video, and follow along for when I do my range day and I go over these two products. Thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Hopefully you guys can get out there,